The Winooski Dolostone extends from just below Winooski Falls to above the bridge. The rock type is from the Middle Cambrian and overlies the older Moncton Formation. Sediments that comprise the Winooski Dolostone were laid down in deeper waters farther from the shore than the adjacent formations, both of which contain sands. Here, as in other layers, we see possible remnants of stromatolites. These biological hummocks give rise to a rolling topography on an otherwise planar to monotonous stratigraphy in the Winooski Dolostone. Intruded into the Winooski Dolostone are much younger basalts from a dike that formed between 105 and 135 million years ago, as extensional forces were stretching the continent thin. These igneous rocks have an orange rind, which has the same composition as the internal portion, but which has rusted in its recent contact with the air. Pockmarks are concentrated on the inside of the flow and represent pockets of olivine that have since eroded away. In 1992, the Winooski 1 dam was built. At the time of its construction, it was the first high-performance civil structure in the world embedded with fiber optic sensors, and therefore earned the status as world's most intelligent dam in the Guinness Book of World Records. But the dam's history is far older than that, and indeed, the original Winooski Dam gave rise to the modern city surrounding it. It provided the necessary energy to run the adjacent mills and shipyards first built by Ira Allen in the late 1700s. In its various incarnations, it has withstood disparate forces, from economic to natural. In 1927, water from the famous flood surged over the Winooski Dam, flooding much of the downtown area and causing massive destruction. The mills closed in the 1950s and dried up Winooski's economic backbone. As we headed upstream, we passed under the Winooski Bridge, which connects Winooski to Burlington. This bridge has also fueled the town's recent resurgence, providing a link between the town and adjacent Burlington's thriving economy. As we continued under the bridge, we could see the refurbished woolen mill apartments and a revitalized downtown to the north, while to the west, upstream, we could see the beginnings of the next stratigraphic layer. As we move upstream, the reoccurrence of sand in the exposed bedrock marks the starting point of the Danby Formation, a calcareous rock of quartzite interbedded with dolomite. With the squawking refrains of ring-billed gulls and black ducks in the background, we watched the water flow over the smooth sedimentary rock. Different layers of rock had preserved old worm burrows, small stromatoliths, and even sand dunes. Between the sands and the various biological clues we found, the Danby Formation indicates a drop in sea level from the depositional environment of the Winooski Dolostone. This could be due to either 1. Glaciers locking up lots of water at the poles, or 2. A decrease in the number of mid-oceanic spreading centers. Further upstream, the width of the river and the floodplain opens into a giant silver maple ostrich fern floodplain forest. A massive uniform outcrop of pure quartz sandstone juts up alongside the footpath just south of the I-89 overpass. Small rocks at the base of the outcrop are composed entirely of pure quartz cemented sandstone, indicating that this was once either a beach or a barrier island. These rocks are the same age as the Potsdam Formation to the west. The sea, therefore, must have been high enough to flood past or around the much-eroded Adirondacks of the time. Pressure draws out quartz from the quartz-cemented sandstone. Groundwater drags it downward, filling in veins along the cracks. With F-16s flying overhead, we enjoyed our lunch in the deeply cut ravine just below the Winooski Gorge. The ravine is carved into the Clarendon Springs Formation, a calcareous rock from the late Cambrian. Along the rock surfaces, you can see stalactite-like structures of calcium where groundwater drips down. The formation supports a forest of northern white cedar that grows seemingly directly out of the cliff faces. Cedar is an indicator species of a rich, calcareous soil. Here, the outcrop shows thinner laminations interspersed with bulkier layers. These quartzite veins stick out from the surface of the rock because dolomite is soluble in water and therefore erodes quicker than the quartzite does. Moving above the gorge, we also move forward in depositional time to the Ordovician. Shelburne marble is a low-grade metamorphic rock. Because of its limestone content, it has been heavily quarried and is in part why the rail line runs through this section connecting old lime kilns and quarries with Burlington and rails north to Canada and south to Boston. We cross the train tracks to the Winooski Cut. The cut in the rock exposes a network of tunnels, or a karst. Each tunnel represents a crack where groundwater slowly eroded progressively larger and larger tunnels. Some were large enough to walk through. Like the other sections of bedrock we looked at, the bedding layers here slope down towards the east. The horizontal bedding planes are thin algal laminations, while the diagonal trending lines are slicken lines from a fault surface, probably from the same event that metamorphosed this limestone. The diagonal lines run the direction of travel of the two rocks as they slid past one another. But why then is Shelburne marble the only rock type in the Champlain Valley to have been metamorphosed, while all other limestones transitioned to dolostones? There are two important pieces here. Shelburne marble is also the youngest rock type. Additionally, dolomite has to be heated higher than limestone to become ductile. At the time of faulting, other older limestones had had time to turn to dolostone, while Shelburne marble parent material had not. Because it hadn't, as a limestone, it would have been less resistant to metamorphic pressure and heated enough to recrystallize as a low-grade marble. Up at the top of the quarry, we followed what appeared to be an ephemeral stream bed. The same process carving out the caves had eroded this soil collapse sinkhole. As we traversed the stratigraphic column, we saw a snapshot of different climatic events, such as shifting currents, and ecological impressions, like the stromatolites, embedded and etched into the very rocks themselves. But we also saw the different habitats that these rocks create today for different species, whether it be the calcareous cliffs home to the cedars, the cavernous karsts where garter snakes den, or the cottonwood perches for the peregrine falcons along the Winooski River. And these, of course, abut and intersect with the human adaptations to the bedrock, from dams and bridges to quarries and lime kilns.